Welcome to Five Stripe Weekly. Amidst the global pandemic, there's one more match for us to talk about for Atlanta United as news of league suspensions soon follow. We discuss all that and more coming up.
Welcome to the show, Five Stripe fam. I'm AJ and this is Mark. Before we get into it, become a member of the notification squad by hitting the bell next to the subscribe button or hop over from Facebook and subscribe. This segment is sponsored by Thinking Man Tavern, a cozy neighborhood pub to hang and to have fun. Grab a tasty beverage from a wide variety of selections and a plate of something delicious from the menu. They also have trivia nights, board games, darts, a great place to just chill and enjoy yourself. Check out Thinking Man Tavern. It's been a tough time of it for many people around the world, least of all for the sport world that finally suspended league play for public health. But we'll attempt to be your distraction from real world problems for as long as we can. And first of all, that big news for at least Atlanta United is that MLS suspended league play for 30 days.
At least 30 days.
Yeah. And that's, I think it's not in there, but I would say, 30 days is probably still even a little optimistic at this point. Right. So, I mean, if that were the case, if this happened, it would be April 19th would be our next actual match. Okay. And that's against Portland Timbers at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Yeah. But I mean, I think through like so many other leagues kind of pretty much suspending as well, NBA kind of one of the biggest shoes to drop with Rudy Gobert of the Utah Jazz that tested positive for coronavirus. I mean, I think you saw the just domino effect that I think, definitely was necessary. A lot of people were maybe a little upset, that's one that didn't happen sooner, or that one on the other side that it, happened in general. Right. But I think, for the humanity's sake, part of it, I think it's really, really wise. Yeah, I mean, because we've seen how it's spread in other countries.
We know that there have now been confirmed cases in the United States. A top health official in Ohio estimated that maybe 1% of Ohio's population has contracted the virus. Obviously, different people react differently to the virus, and there could be X amount of days and weeks before you see symptoms, just something to know just from reading. But I mean, 1% of Ohio is over 100,000 people. And so if that estimate is anything close to true, that's a lot of cases. Yeah,
that is a lot of people. And apparently 46 of 50 states right now are affected and have cases of coronavirus. I just urge you, if you're watching this, to do the research. Really search out cdc.gov, search out World Health Organization, reputable sources that have actual information on what you should do about this, and especially if you have it as well. But and in terms of back to MLS, they are planning to reschedule the postponed matches on the back end of the season in the fall. Interesting.
That makes this going to sound busy, maybe.
Yeah, and so there could be some midweek matches, and especially if it's only a month. I mean, on the very optimistic end of it, it would only be 3 matches. If it's more than that, if it's 6 to 8, or whichever, obviously it becomes more of a conundrum on how to really fit that all in. Because 3 matches, you can maybe tack that on at the end and make it kind of look like the 2018 MLS playoffs. Right. And that's maybe more palatable. If it extends further than that, then you'll just, that could be a thing. But I think mostly, they will try to fit. They are saying trying to fit all 34 games.
Yeah,
so.
And I mean, lucky for MLS, there's only been 2 weeks in the books, so it does seem doable.
Garber has even said that the offseason was a little bit too long, and I think many of us felt that as well. It felt like half a year, but it was like 5 months,
which is still a pretty sizable amount of time.
It's a lot, So it's near the end of a season, and then into the new year, it's like, it's not, maybe the worst, but there is a little bit of flexibility here, especially we're only 2 games into the season. Right. And so in terms of that, the large scheme of it, our season really just started.
Yeah. Yep.
But that was following the announcement earlier in the week that MLS was closing locker rooms to the media due to the coronavirus concerns. In terms of that, that was just trying to contain it to itself, and there was a little bit of speculation if they were going to play, for other leagues anyway, that if they were going to play closed door matches. For MLS, we kind of relied too much on match day revenue for it to ever really be a thing at this moment, because our TV deals are just not strong enough.
So that was never realistic. Never a realistic solution for me in terms of MLS. PSG in their Champions League match did play in an empty stadium, and yet they have League One. That's just one of the leagues that have suspended play, as well as Champions League for all of Europe. And
you've seen leagues around the world, not only in America with the likes of NBA, Major League Baseball also suspending spring training for a little bit of time,
and delaying the start of their season,
and Premier League after the Arteta and Arsenal type of scare essentially, and then also Callum Hudson-Odoi with Chelsea. I mean, this is when we say global, this is absolutely very much impacted if you haven't really been paying attention the past 2 days. But I think curiously, Liga MX and also the Australian League have not quite yet, as of this recording on a Friday. So very curious that they have not suspended league play.
I mean, listen, 72 hours ago, I could have understood, maybe league play continuing, but I'm shocked given everything that's happened in the last 48 hours. I'm shocked that they're still continuing, but I just hope everyone's safe.
Yeah, indeed. But so many fans really, I think, asked immediately when MLS was suspended that, does this allow Joseph to have more time to return? I mean, theoretically, in a sense, but I think the main part is that he hasn't even had surgery yet. And so it really starts when he has surgery, and then that's that recovery period of at least 6 months in terms of that rehab.
I mean, I gotta be honest, just on a personal standpoint, I'm not keen for him to come back this season. I just think he's better off, taking the year off, and then preparing for a proper comeback in 2021. That's just how I feel personally. Obviously, if he goes through the rehab and he feels good and he's cleared by doctors, then okay. But for him to rush back for the end of the season and the postseason run, I personally don't think that's the wisest thing.
And then on top of that, probably why he hasn't yet is because the swelling maybe hasn't gone down. Then you also have, a lot of hospitals are overwhelmed right now. And so scheduling something that's, it just seems a little bit where it's not the, utmost importance, unfortunately, and that's just kind of how it should be, really. But in terms of, Miles Robinson and Franco Escobar, I think that's a really good thing for them in a sense that they get to recover, and whenever we return, they would at least in the interim be fully healthy.
And also De Boer announced that Josetu did sprain his ankle after twisting it in the Club America match, and so that's another player that could use a few weeks to recover now.
And that's definitely good for them. In terms of Darren Eales, he made a statement talking about the leagues that were closing, and that they are pretty much they're going to do everything that they can, and they thank the fans for the patience and understanding as they try to gather more information. Classy from the president as usual. In terms of the teams are going to be allowed to conduct formal practices pretty much on Monday. That's at the earliest, which is very interesting. But they're permitted to work out individually at the team training centers. So no mass, trainings in that regard.
At least for over the weekend.
And so, we'll see. I think still it's as much caution probably as necessary right now.
I wouldn't be surprised if if teams didn't practice next week.
Yeah.
Like it, and that's part of the challenge here for us too. Is everything's so fluid. News is coming in every hour, every couple hours. It feels like, but yeah, as of right now, it does seem like teams will be allowed to conduct team practices on Monday, but we'll see.
Indeed. But yeah, so far the tickets also will be for the postponed MLS matches of the one on Saturday that was supposed to be against Sporting KC, the 21st against Chicago Fire, their home opener, that will be postponed, as well as the April 5th FC Cincinnati versus LA United match. And yeah, so in terms of those, they will get their money back, or they will instead get their that into the next time that the games actually happen.
Right.
Sorry. So when those games actually happen, then you will be able to make a decision about whether you can go or not.
Yeah.
But in terms of the CONCACAF Champions League, that's also a thing where, suspended, immediate effect. Wednesday will not happen at Fifth Third Bank Stadium.
Right.
And that will also be for 30 days. That was announced on Friday. And so, all the other CONCACAF related events also will be suspended for 30 days as well.
Right.
In terms of for Darren Eales and him saying anything about if it will continue to be played at Fifth Third Bank Stadium when and if it returns,
right.
It will be clear of those kind of legacy events in terms of Final Four and
right.
That type of thing. But he doesn't know if it will move from Fifth Third Bank Stadium to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So not the news that maybe everybody wanted to hear, of course. You play a team the size of Club America, you want to have it in your stadium, but I think it is at this, case in point, you have to kind of play it by ear and see when you can actually return.
Yeah.
So
it seems like we don't really know when football is going to return.
Exactly. So also the 2020 U.S. Open Cup has been temporarily suspended. The first 3 rounds were scheduled to happen March 24th to 25th, April 7th to 9th, and April 21st to 23rd.
Yeah.
And in that regard, it's interesting. We won the U.S. Open Cup. That's like, a trophy that's kind of near and dear to us a little bit.
Right, and that's how we got into the Champions League. And actually, before the Open Cup itself was suspended, USL teams announced that they would not be participating in Open Cup again, in response to the health crisis. And
which is really brave of them as well, because they're not a single entity type of league.
Right.
So that's... they lose a lot of match day revenue,
right.
but it was already probably going to be really congested when they returned anyway.
Right.
So
and then that kind of compromises what the Open Cup is and what it's about. The whole point of the Open Cup is
Minnows versus Giants.
Exactly. Yeah. All the leagues, all the teams of all the leagues get a chance to participate. That's why every country has a version of it. And so when you take that element out of it, then I think that jeopardized the Open Cup even happening. Now, of course, it's suspended, but I'm curious to see if it's held this year. It is the longest continuous running competition in the world, soccer competition in the world.
Yeah.
And so, and then of course, like I mentioned, it is a pathway to the Champions League. And so there are a lot of material effects that come along with the Open Cup.
Right. And so it almost has to be played. And so it's very brave again of the USL clubs to bow out of it. And also, of course, this impacts LA United too. They will not be playing as well. In terms of the response to COVID-19, Arthur Blank will be compensating the hourly workers that work not only for Atlanta Falcons but Atlanta United as well. That's really, really great from the owner, because there's so many people affected because of this, not only because of health-wise, but I think monetarily wise, economically, there will be far-reaching impacts of this as well. Very, I think, damaging for a lot of people's livelihood as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I urge, if you're watching this, if you're in a place to be able to give, please support the medical employees that are really helping people try to even get out of this, get through this.
Yeah.
And also, your service employees, your event employees, people that rely on gig type of economy in the industries. There's a lot of people impacted.
Yeah, I mean, restaurants who are going to be slower now, maybe.
Yeah.
Just in general, I think, but it's particularly like around sports arenas and so on.
Right. People that cover sports, and people that are part of the sporting events, and that create content for it.
Yeah.
Everyone is absolutely going to be severely impacted. They probably don't know when their next paycheck is going to come from. So if you can help them, support them in any way or manner, buy them a beer, buy them a dinner, support their Patreon, whichever, continue to consume their content in the meantime when they can't maybe produce as much.
Yeah.
That's all, I think, very, very important in this time. So yeah, hopefully, if you are, again, in a position to be able to give, that you are able to. But in terms of getting into a little bit lighter hearted in the power rankings for MLS, it was very interesting. LA United was top after 2 games.
Yeah.
Whether we deserved it or not is a whole different deal. I think, you play the likes of like a Sporting KC this weekend that also were undefeated, and 2 games, whatever. But they arguably could have been higher.
Yeah.
They were 6th, and we played against an expansion team, and also the team that got the wooden spoon last year.
Right.
And, 2-1 results. I don't know if we deserve it, but
hey, we'll take it. Yeah, we're not the experts.
Yeah, but and so in terms of the kind of transfer rumors that were swirling around Jurgen Damm of Tigres, Frank de Boer, he talked about and responded to those reports. He said to MLSsoccer.com that nobody from the team has told me about that player. MLS needs players like him to raise the level, but we're not in contact with him.
Yeah,
and
he
so,
did kind of the distance himself from it kind
right.
of response. Yeah, we always, I don't know, I think we were always skeptical about this one to begin with.
I think the links, even if it was TUDN that eventually picked it up, the links were very, very weak and seemed a little bit more dartboard. And I think you're seeing a little bit more of this often now, that LA United are just involved as one of those teams that gets paired with a player that maybe is want away, or an agent is trying to pair to kind of go somewhere, and just it's gonna happen even more so, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
But there was a report from Dutch site De Telegraaf that said that LA United and Frank de Boer's agent Guido Albers, they were searching in the market to find a young, pacey, talented striker who is on the bench at a large club and can be loaned. So that's there's a lot of players actually.
Right.
Really.
Exactly.
And
it's not specific, but I mean, like, it makes sense, I guess. So it's like it could be true, but also probably what they were always doing.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's that's that profile that we want probably, but still, it's going to be very, very difficult, especially when you have this league suspensions and whatnot. It really will impact if we can even bring in players that their contract expires June 30th. Most of the leagues around the world anyway. And then so if it is that case, and they try to return play in terms of their league, and then are they still contracted with that team? Do they sign like short-term contracts to just play out the rest of the season if that happens?
Right.
And then it's just bringing in players in this time period is going to be really, really difficult. Yeah. So it'll be something to watch. But
I mean, like, I just don't see how the transfer window looks the same. I mean, like, Premier League officials and European officials are set to meet on Tuesday, I believe it is. Big meeting. And I mean, like, sources suggest that they're not going to return play in 30 days. They're like, thing is, beyond, has broken containment in those, I think, specific areas like Italy, for example.
Yeah, Premier League officials apparently, according to a tweet, they were saying, and I think there was a Sky Sports tweet, or a reporter anyway, saying that it was a 75% chance that, the league wouldn't even be able to continue. That's obviously heartbreaking for them. I think for MLS, obviously a different story.
Right.
We just started the season. We can probably fit that in.
Right.
But it does impact, what type of, not only transfer window that can happen, but also how the league can end for them.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Will Liverpool win the league after 30 years?
Oh,
Who
man.
knows?
Man.
Either way, any scenario that happens, people are going to be angry. Some set of fans are going to be angry. But, and so in the large scheme of it, the Premier League, that if that does continue, that's the whole thing.
Right.
MLS, there's also talks of it being at least a couple months, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if something like that actually can or cannot happen.
Yeah.
Moving on to something a little bit more lighthearted. Greg Garza was on BSI the podcast. That's the Benny Feilheimer, Sal Zizzo, former player of ours, and Ike Opara's podcast, where they pretty much interview their buddies or players that are in the league or retired players.
Right.
But Garza reflected on the 2018 MLS Cup, and he said a lot of very interesting things in terms of being with the team. But that MLS Cup really, I think he said that you knew from the very beginning, even in 2017, I would probably say after the first few games of the season, was that if we could just get some more depth in this team after the first season, that you knew from the second season that it would be that it needed to be a championship team.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think that pretty
a lot
much
of people felt that.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with Tata. I think even before it actually happened, you always felt like Tata was the key to engineering this thing. He was such a big get for Atlanta United. It was just with this manager and these players, the way it came out of the gate in year one, I think we were definitely the favorites going into year two. Yeah,
and then he went on to say that I think losing Supporters Shield and then getting our asses beat against Toronto in that last game really helped us go all the way. And I think, what's really interesting also in the podcast, you should listen to it, was him saying that he doesn't even think that Tata Martino was, the best, I think, tactical coach that he ever had. It's very interesting. He said that Tata, which means grandpa in Spanish, that he was more like a grandpa figure, like a type of father figure for them more so, and that they had a lot of great respect for him, but it wasn't his actual best tactical coach. Very, very interesting.
I think it makes sense too. Kind of falls in line with his profile a little bit. I mean, Tata did have that reputation of falling short in the big game and so on. You know what I mean? So I could see, and that I don't even think that's necessarily criticism. It's just maybe tactics, being obsessed about tactics, isn't Tata's thing.
Yeah.
As much as it is man motivation. Lighting a fire under players. Because some of the stuff he would say sometimes after games, especially after poor performances, he was just look, okay, when they lost to Supporters Shield, he was we betrayed ourselves. You know what I mean? We betrayed our style and so on. And some tough words. So he does feel like a real father figure in that regard, both encouraging and being tough.
Yeah, a motivator. Yeah. Definitely. And then he also he was asked about the supporters and whatnot, and he pretty much revealed that he does feel we do stuff ballots, and he said I won goal of the week twice, and they were both tap-ins, which fair. I mean, I remember that one against Vancouver Whitecaps, and pretty much he had the Ronaldo celebration, but it's I mean, pretty much back post he gets it in from pretty close in the six. It's fair. Akopar had I think, large problem with our fans in that regard. But it's a great podcast, so go listen to it. But anyway, moving on from that, LGP had a great tribute for Joseph Martinez, he did the iconic kneel celebration that Joseph does, and then he held up the 7 after he scored for Cholos this past week. And man, tearjerker, dude. That's just, clearly he's just a great dude in the sense, like, he's looking out for his fallen brother. And then, I mean,
you can tell that he follows the team still. It's real, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's just love to see former players who still have a connection to the team somehow. Right. And also shout out to LGP and Cholos. They're on their way to a Copa Meki final. That's where that was the match he's involved in this past week, the semifinal. So best of luck to them.
Yeah, and so LGP is clearly doing it in 2020 for Joseph.
Yeah.
But around the world a little bit. So let's talk about so Italy, they shut down pretty much the entire country in a sense. Papu Gomez of Inter Milan, he pretty much said that there's no one in the streets. It's like being in a horror movie on that lockdown in Italy right now. I mean, that's just the state of what it is right now, and it could be where it's coming to the United States as well, in that sense, where if we're locked down, we shall see. But
and if he's in Milan, I mean, that's one of the busiest cities in the world. So if that place looks like a ghost town,
exactly. So, but in terms of this is where the football authorities in England and Europe, they're braced for a total shutdown of the game until at least September, according to the Independent. That's really, really interesting. I mean, that pretty much, it kind of blows through transfer windows, it blows through ends of seasons.
Right.
I mean, this is very serious what we're dealing with here.
I mean, they're basically saying nothing's been confirmed, but they're basically considering that we may have just seen the end of the 2020 season for the Premier League.
Yeah.
Which is...
Or the 1920 season.
Right, 1920, right, yeah.
Yeah, moving on from that, there was a crazy game that happened over the weekend. The Porto Alegre derby between Grêmio and Internacional in Brazil. It ended with a mass brawl and 8 red cards on Thursday. That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, the images were scenes.
For sure. It reminded me of Miles in the Palace.
Yeah, essentially, right. It wasn't quite with like fans, but it was definitely not a pretty sight.
It looked like whole squads were involved.
Yeah, but 8 red cards. I don't know if that's a precedent, but wow.
Yeah. But I don't understand how the match continues. Like, don't you just end the match there? It's like, y'all brawled, it's over. Like,
exactly right. Yeah, you're just like, we cannot continue with so few players on the pitch.
Right.
But it did.
Yeah.
And, so anyway, moving on from that. So the USSF, the United States Soccer Federation, they got rid of the former president now in terms of Carlos Cordero. Pretty much he said some pretty insensitive things that...
it wasn't what he said so much, but it was in the legal filings that, he had to have approved, and they, if you haven't read them yet, essentially USSF tries to define athleticism as work, and within that argument basically suggests that
that men apparently have more skill because they're men versus females.
Right.
And that's just a ridiculous.
Like, essentially that their sport, the men's sport, is harder than the women's sport, and that they carry more responsibility. And there was even the line about hostile crowds, and it was, it was not received well, I think, is the...
Yeah, and that's also, I mean, the U.S. Women's national team, they were vying for pay raises. To hear that, I mean, pretty much sponsors of the women's national team and USSF in general, they pretty much heard that. They fought back very quickly, and I think they had a hand probably in why that Carlos Cordero was eventually he resigned.
And one of the most the strongest statements came from Don Garber,
MLS commissioner.
is, you know, you can read the statement online, but basically, yeah, he was not happy with those legal filings and you know, how they described, I guess, the women's national team and essentially as inferior.
Yeah, and so, Cindy Parlow has moved forward as now the first female president of the USSF, also a former Atlanta Beat, soccer player. So, has some Atlanta ties. That's hopefully,
as well as the national team.
Hopefully there are, some strides forward that the USSF can do. Obviously, there's needing to be almost open heart surgery with the federation right now.
There's actually just a piece that was posted today by Michael McCann. He's kind of like a law expert, but mostly writes about sports for SI. And he actually believes that with this recent move, Carlos Cardero stepping down and Cindy Parlow becoming the president, that there's better chance that USSF and the women's national team will eventually come to terms in terms of what the women are seeking. And I support the women wholeheartedly in this cause, and I hope that they can come to terms so that, this relationship stops being awkward. I think the USSF just has egg on its face for so many different reasons, we can talk about the men's team, how they've handled certain things, and then this issue with the women, it's like...
Yeah. They rightfully protested by flipping their training kits inside out, which had the badge as pretty much blank, but still the outline, and then their 4 stars spoke volumes.
Yeah.
And I think that's I think in terms of what they bring to the table, that pretty much exemplifies what they do.
Pretty much.
So anyway, let's move on from that. We're done with the news, and we did it kind of reverse as we normally do, but we feel like the suspension of league play was definitely of higher importance to talk about because of COVID-19. So let's get into the match review. Unfortunately,
we gotta do it, right?
So it was a 3-0 loss against Club America. Probably a little bit unfair of a scoreline for both sides, really, actually. Maybe they could have scored more. We definitely should have at least scored one.
Right.
P.T. Martinez hits the post and the crossbar on one, and then hits the post on another. Hits the crossbar on another. And then, you have chances kind of almost right at Jimenez, and then also a header, I believe, from Mesa that Jimenez also is pretty easily, well, not easily, but pretty, almost acrobatically saves a little bit. So, a little bit of an annoying match to watch here, but in terms of that starting lineup, it looked like this. Where, you had Guzan between the sticks, obviously, but you also had Loretowitz, Mesa, and Walks in that back line.
Right.
You had Adams, Remedi, Hyndman in the middle. You had Mulroney and Lennon as the wingbacks, and then Barco and PT up top. As the strikers, but obviously no one really there to hold up the play, and that seemed like it kind of was a pretty big issue. Club America were able to run rampant on us. 12 and 13 minute goals. That first one, probably a lack of closing down from us. Again, another long range effort that's golazo, but it is a recurrent problem for sure. And then that second goal, you kind of have us getting, all over the shop a little bit. Maybe we're, in response to them scoring, we try to push forward a little bit, leaving some spaces in behind us. And, we're beat on our right side. And, they put it away pretty easily.
They put it away, and then Walks
as well. But.
And the move, it's very precise. Walks, I think, just keeps him on. But it's good movement off the ball, nice pass, good finish, very tidy goal, I think.
Henry Martin, he's one of their kind of star strikers. If you give him that much space one-on-one, pretty much easy for him.
Right.
And then, yeah, I mean, in terms of, the third goal, it's a set piece where, we are struggling at the moment at defending them.
Yes.
And I think when you have a makeshift back line that hasn't really played together as, that three, you have pretty much Hyman getting, beat on a header when, Wisey marking their best header
Right.
is also an issue.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned it in the preview before this that, like the header from the defender is something that we need to look out for.
Right.
And it is, it's something that happens in the game, and it's just absolutely.
Yeah, it's not for the first time this season. You know what I mean? Like we talked about it after Nashville, and yeah, it is. It's annoying. It's annoying. I mean, it's not a new problem. It's just it's a kind of a sucker punch way to give up goals. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Because like set pieces, they're not really like the flow of the game, and so it's set pieces are an opportunity to steal an advantage or lose an advantage, and it seems to be more often than not we're on the losing end of that battle.
Right. And so in terms of, I think, the setup in terms of being reserved and being a little bit, parking the bus a little bit more, it's not a bad tactic in the sense that because we're short so many of our top players, but I think when you have the personnel, I think that don't really allow you to have a release valve.
Yes.
That's really, I think, our bone to pick with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like parking the bus, it's popular among managers. It's not popular with fans necessarily. Yeah. People don't necessarily like to see it or talk about it necessarily. But it's been around forever. I mean, Italians call it catenaccio. It's just, you're going into a hostile environment, an adversarious environment, right? Like, even with our best players, Club America is still a better team, probably.
Yeah.
And so, that you're not necessarily going to have most of the ball. But like you talked about, I think our big, what was on our undoing was just not being able to release any pressure whatsoever, not having any spells of possession, okay, when you see the numbers like 35 versus 65 in terms of like possession, that's not like a constant thing, like even within a half or 20 minutes or whatever, you have like spells of possession here and there where you can at least like build a proper counterattack, or just like simply where you're not defending, even build a whole attack, you know what I mean? Like, I think with the personnel we had, we just never had an opportunity to do that. And, not to be too harsh on one player, I just don't think Mo Adams was the right player for this particular game. I still believe in him as a valuable, midfielder, squad player going forward. I just think this particular game, not necessarily. Definitely Marino's playing right center back. Sure, definitely expected that. But I think you could have maybe started John and had somebody to lump the ball up to so he could hold up the play a little bit to allow Barco and PD and others to get upfield. You notice we were lumping the ball up a lot, but to who? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was almost balls over the top to Barco or PT,
Right.
and they would have to be tasked with keeping it until other players were brought into the play. And I mean, they're like 1 against 3 or 1 against 5, and then it's just really, really difficult to really build anything. I mean, both of them work their tails off, but absolutely difficult on them to even be able to play their normal game. And so to task them with all that is maybe a little bit unfair. And so I mean, it's difficult, obviously, the whole of it to kind of know how you're going to want to play when you're down so many players. It's a midweek game after you just played on Saturday. But I think at the end of the day, like, what you saw obviously just wasn't good enough.
Right.
But in the second half, I think we definitely played a lot better. Maybe if it was Club America, maybe taking the gas off the pedal slightly as well. But Mateus Rossetto coming in, really changed the game a little bit for us in the 10 minutes he was on. looked pretty tidy to where, you have someone that can keep the ball, has ideas going forward.
Yeah.
It definitely helped us in that regard, but he goes off with an injury.
Right.
It's a twisted ankle.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's you get Emmanuel Castro that comes in, who I think did pretty decent for just coming into the team this week.
Right. Yeah, seriously.
And I mean, he was definitely trying to make some things happen, but I think end of the day, you saw a lack of chemistry, not only in attack but in the defense as well.
And he was also being used primarily centrally, and he did say he prefers the wings, like that's just his more natural position. So I mean, like maybe with time he can kind of replicate what Joseph does to a degree, but to have to come on in that situation, I think is a little bit tough on him. And he did okay, showed some flashes here and there.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think if you look at the stats at the end of the day, though, 18 shots for Club America, 17 shots for us. Shots on target 7-5 for Atlanta. Corner kicks 8-5 for Atlanta. Fouls committed 13-11. Possession 57-43. Club America had it. I mean, they pretty much it's fairly close.
Right.
It's not obviously if they're at home the possession is a little higher, but 3-0 I think it just doesn't really show the type of scoreline that I think this game actually was.
Right.
We were just very, very poor in the first half.
Yeah.
Second half, we definitely, it's a tale of two halves, as they say. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's another mirrored scoreline of last year against Monterrey.
Yeah.
And so we have all to do in Kennesaw if it is in Kennesaw.
Yeah, and one more note, one more thought about this game. Like, I think, in turn, looking at how the likeliest outcomes for this match, I think it would have been always difficult to hold America to less than 2 goals, right? I think 2 or 3 goals is probably on the card for them. I just wonder if we had played better and maybe, started with a different personnel in the first half, if we would have had more opportunities to score in that half, and then like maybe more so in the second half, to where it's like a 3-1, 4-2 type of deal. Like if we get a goal out of this, it's, we're still up against it, but like it's doable to a degree,
Yeah, it's doable, but it is going into the match. You heard Frank de Boer say that 1-1 is a good result. Of course, 5-0 is a great result. Of course, he was saying that type of stuff. But I think you saw going in that he was probably going to be a little bit more pragmatic.
Sure.
And then that's the difficulty is maybe we gave them too much respect in the not only the personnel but also the way we played.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, it's that the chemistry has a large part to play in this because of just how little the guys have actually played with each other. I mean, if you look at the kind of the squad recruitment on a whole, it's pretty much half the players pretty much that are like new to the team.
Yeah.
And that's a huge difficulty that we've had essentially 4 matches, like real matches, for them to actually get acclimated, and then they haven't even played in this formation nor personnel in terms of the players that were in there.
Right.
So, I mean, we were up against it from the very beginning, and I mean, it's going to be a difficult second leg, but stranger things have also happened.
Sure.
So,
yeah. Whenever that second leg happens.
Exactly. So maybe it could be a PSG Barcelona type of
or Liverpool Barcelona.
Yeah, or Liverpool Barcelona. Yeah. I mean, there's gonna be some time between this.
Yeah.
So at least in terms of preparation, Frank de Boer did say after the match that we only had like 3.5 days to really prepare. And so, now you have a lot of time before whenever it's going to happen. You know how they do set up and what type of personnel that they do have. Yeah, I think it's game on now in a sense. Not game on in the result-wise, maybe in that respect. But in terms of the post-match quotes, Frank de Boer said that, he pretty much takes the blame for this match in that we chose a tactical concept, not the normal way we play, more reserved, dropping a little bit deeper. The trip, the altitude, we decided to play really compact. We never really got pressure on them. That's on me. I made the decision. And that's the difficulty there is, because not only the altitude, because of, them running around, that's already a big hurdle, as well, because they're not used to that. I mean, they're probably gasping for air at the end of it, even probably during it, even before the first half even ended, I'm sure. It was, sucking wind. So
yeah, and I mean, like, two things here that stand out to me. One, I applaud De Boer for saying I take the blame. That's on me. I made the tactical decision. But where he says we never really got pressure on them, I totally agree. I think that one thing that I said, you may have heard me say in the past about teams facing LA United, is that I think that teams who sit back too much, I think that's the mistake. I think you want to at least get pressure on the midfielders to where they're not, having the space to create. And I think Club America had their midfielders, just dictated the entire game. We lost the midfield battle. Like, even if you're trying to sit back, you got to win the midfield battle. That first goal, the screamer, there are 9 LA United players in the box when that ball's trickling out. I mean, like, it's just at way too deep.
Yeah, it's too low of a block, and that's the difficulty here is, why are we doing that? I think that might be a book on us in terms of shots from distance. Like, I think other teams know that that's somewhere that they can exploit with their long rangers.
Yeah.
So but De Boer, I think rightfully so. He said, "I'm really proud of the guys the way they played the second half. We really deserved a goal, but we lost the game in the first half." Definitely. I mean, I think we deserved a goal for sure. I mean, again, PT, hitting crossbars.
That free kick, I didn't even expect him to shoot. It's just
it's true, and it was so tantalizingly close, and so it really is an undeserved 3-0 for sure.
Right.
Adam John did say on on Twitter afterwards, a kind of rah that this ain't over, an uphill battle, sure, but we're not giving up, and we'll need your support in the return leg to mount an epic comeback. And you love to see that from new players that are, I think, showing some leadership and showing, at least the fans as well that, there's fight from the team. They're definitely, you saw the fight in the second half for sure.
Yeah.
That, the Five Stripes, they weren't giving it up. They were fighting for every ball after, I think some tactical changes and with Josetu coming in, and so it definitely is.
When are we gonna get lucky with injuries, man? Like, if Josetu could have finished at half, even, I don't know, because, like, I really believe that he's gonna bring an element to this team that we currently don't have.
Yeah, I mean it is. Yeah, he's someone that's just very technical and is able to push us forward, and that is just another player on the pitch like that. It's going to be very crucial. But anyway, that does it for the match review, and almost pretty much like football for a while in terms of for LA United in terms of those match reviews.
Yeah.
But hopefully, in terms of public health, that hopefully settles down soon. But we don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's get into the buy or sell. And buy or sell, we essentially put up an LA United topic and say if we buy or sell it and give our reasons why. First topic is that MLS will return before May 2020. Buy or sell?
So, like, you say before May, like before May 1st?
Yeah, I mean, right now it's going to be 30 days, and
right.
So that's, April 19th. And if that is, I mean... right before, get your crystal ball out, man.
Yeah, no, I know, right? I think 6 weeks is an optimistic but still within reason. I think maybe when MLS can be cleared to restart. So 6 weeks would put us, I think, right before May, and so I guess I could buy that. I mean, I gotta be honest, you're reading this stuff is just grim, I mean, like we mentioned, other leagues preparing for a long-term shutdown. I hope as, a society, at least in the US, we are able to contain this thing. before it gets, before it spreads too quickly, too far. I think it's possible that 6 weeks, we can resume play.
Yeah. You are braver than I in that respect of buying or selling this. I sell completely that we can return before May 2020. It's just, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully the containment does happen. Hopefully the cases do go way, way down. But I don't know, seeing how everything is going at the moment, how it really can, really happen before that, because you have to get them ramped back up, in terms of almost like a preseason as well. It's difficult for, we have to have almost a secondary preseason to get them ready. Yeah. Like, who do we play? Do we play fellow MLS sides? That's probably not going to be the case. Do we play some local teams around us? Maybe that's interesting to kind of prep in, the run up to, but we will see. Hopefully this stuff, really resolves very soon. But I don't know. Yeah. But next buy or sell is that JJ Williams will play more than 10 games in all competitions for Atlanta United in 2020.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy that, especially with so MLS right now. Anyway, their intention is to complete all 34 regular season matches. It does seem like in that situation the schedule would be more condensed, and so I think there's an opportunity for JJ Williams to play. Look, striker obviously has not been locked down yet. You saw it versus Club America, we went essentially without a striker. So I think that Frank de Boer will be tinkering and trying different things, and I could see JJ Williams at least getting 10 appearances.
Yeah, I think I agree as well, and it's because of the transfer window being just so up in the air. You have no idea if we're going to actually be able to bring in players, when we're going to be able to, and so with the condensed schedule, like you were saying, it really could be a case where Williams sees a lot more playing time than maybe they had intended. Mm-hmm. I think he was definitely always going to be more of a third striker type of guy in the depth chart. Excuse me. And so in that regard, we'll probably see a lot more of him. And hopefully, he will show out and show his worth in terms of why he was drafted so highly in the super draft. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that does it for buy or sell and gets us to the mailbag. You guys send in these questions through IG story. Please continue to do so, and we might answer your question in the future. First question comes from Panth Neon. What position should we bring in if we sign players during season suspension? And so that's the difficulty, is we don't really know if for those leagues that are suspended and their players and their contracts ending June 30th, who we can bring in. But if everything was rosy, what position would you?
Right. Probably striker, or either striker or central midfield. I think that we've used two young players at center back, and I think Wyke and Campbell are going to be part of the first team for the most part this season. George Bello is back, and Castillo I think is close to coming back, so we have some depth there, provided that they stay healthy. Maybe right back, possibly, but I think we have numbers there as well. So, but striker, I think, and central midfield definitely stand out as positions we can probably address with another player. Yeah, no,
I definitely agree. I mean, it's I think paramount that we bring in a striker that can actually run in behind, that can do something different than what John and Williams can do. But as of right now, there is one senior roster spot. So we'll see. In terms of international spot, I mean, don't really worry with LA United per se.
Right.
So even though Wyke did take one, but I think the added bonus was that Williams didn't take up a senior roster spot at all.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Dom Yermian 20. Mm-hmm. Do you think the 30-day break could break the momentum we had in the MLS?
I don't think we really had momentum. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I think we scraped by with those wins. Like, okay, like we played well in spots, I think, in those matches, but they weren't necessarily the best performances. And so while they were performances that you can build off of, I don't know if we necessarily lost that much momentum in terms of. I don't think we had that much momentum going. I mean, like I think the Club America match was a good example of that. Like, they kind of showed us real quick that this was a different quality, and I think even the Kansas City match would have been a lot tougher than what we had faced before that. So, I guess in a way, not really, just because like it was so early. I don't think we really got on a roll.
Right. Yeah, it definitely is. Our first two matches were against lesser opposition, let's face it.
Yeah.
And so, for us to really, I think, be sweating it really isn't really a factor right now. 2 games into a season and, 3 games essentially, into CCL. It's, right now, not a huge factor.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Josh, period 1823. Now the season has been suspended. Do you think that Joseph can make it back? I think we alluded to it earlier.
Yeah.
I mean, your opinion, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want him to rush back for 2020, to be honest. Like, it's, like I said before, if he's cleared by doctors, then fine. But aside from that, really, I think he should take his time.
Yeah. I think, if he can do Joseph things in that respect where he's a warrior and he will like fight like crazy to come back as early as possible, maybe you give him a little bit of a look at least in training and maybe some kind of almost reserve games in the run up to maybe like if the season's still happening in November or something like that. But I think best case scenario for me is probably he has an eye for 2021 versus the end of 2020.
Right.
Next question comes from
EMAV
23339. EMAV 2339 asks, "Hey, do you think they are going to extend the season?" I think almost a certainty at this point that it would be extended because there is at least one more month that they could tack on.
Right.
I think they would probably want to do that versus, really a lot of fixture congestion, and make it really, really difficult to like travel and whatnot. Although now it's going to be probably fully all chartered flights.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But it still will be, I think, very, very much so, I think. But they could go whichever other route if our fixture congestion gets so crazy. So.
Right. Yeah. I think the regular season finale decision day is October 6th as of right now, I believe. And I could definitely see it to where you got the the FIFA international window. I think the following week they started doing that last year. In terms of MLS scheduling it like that. And so I think probably play. The regular season continues after that international break, maybe up until the next one, and then the playoffs start. So, pretty much be like that 2018 MLS Cup, right?
Ending on like mid to early December.
Right.
So,
yeah.
It'll be tough, but
hopefully it doesn't rain.
Yes. Yeah, right. Hopefully it's not bitter cold rain, but it very much could be. It's Georgia.
Yeah.
Anyway, last question comes from Keaton Thomas 61, and the question is, how are y'all doing during this time of crisis? How will you cope without soccer for now?
It's not just, it's sports, man. Without sports, like, it's all halted.
All the distractions for people in terms of sporting endeavors are going to be something that is of huge void for a lot of people. Not only in the professional sports world, but as well as the kind of little league and youth soccer leagues and that type of thing. Where
the NCAA canceled all their winter and spring championships. I mean, it's really basketball, of course, got the most of the attention, but really it's all of those athletes who I think the NCAA did announce that they would restore eligibility for the spring athletes, so that they could have their senior season, I guess, next season or whatever. But that's it sucks. It's sad, you know.
Yeah.
For those kids, you know, like you mentioned, for high school athletes, for middle school athletes, all across the spectrum.
Sure. And then, I mean, in terms of us, I mean, I think still it's fairly new in that regard where, yeah, we're still going to figure out how we will deal with this. Yeah, it will be obviously a little bit more difficult to create Atlanta United, you know, type of content in that regard. But I think, yeah, I've got a bunch of ideas on how we want to do it, but you guys please leave us in the comments below what you guys would like to see us do. Maybe some FIFA challenge stuff, maybe some forfeit challenges.
This guy has been yearning to play me in FIFA. He cannot beat me. He's yet to do it.
I also don't play FIFA a whole lot, and that's, yeah, I will maybe try to play more of that, but yeah, I think you'll see a lot more solitary type of events that people will be doing. Yeah, I think, you know, Netflix binges probably for a lot of people.
Probably.
Reading books, what, for people? Yeah, and, you know, just kind of lessening the social gathering and more of the social distancing as they are, I think, advising right now, which is wise. But yeah, I mean, soccer, such a huge part of both of our lives, I feel like. Yeah, I mean, we consume a lot of it, and it will be very difficult to fill that void. It is, yeah, I mean, it's, I don't know. I mean, please leave us some suggestions on what, you know, because there will be some other time that, but it is, I love movies, I love television, and that type of thing too, but it can only fill it for so long.
There's so many shows that I need to catch up on and binge on, and so I guess now I have no excuse.
Right. What's one big one that you haven't seen that everyone's talked about?
The Wire.
The Wire.
I need to watch.
Man.
I know. I need to watch The Wire all the way through. Breaking Bad. So yeah.
Oh, watch Breaking Bad first. But The Wire is absolutely also a must-watch. But I don't know how much time you have, like, with all of that. But for me, it's Game of Thrones. I just never. I mean, I watched the first season, and that was pretty much it. I was like, okay, there's so much exposition, and I feel like the actual, like, kind of the episodes afterwards, like the little mini docs afterwards, really gave more context than the actual show itself. So for me, that's one that, it's just so dense, so many characters. Maybe now I finally have some time to. Plus, it was one of those, like, it's one of those event shows that I just didn't want to, like, follow up with every single week. And so for me, Game of Thrones. But anyway, that does it for the mailbag and pretty much the entire show except for the question of the day.
So guys, look, let's be honest. Yeah, it's kind of a grim time, you know, with sports screeching to a halt, and really, in a lot of ways, our society being disrupted. But we decided we'd maybe ask a lighter question. What will you guys be doing to pass the time without sports? Definitely get in the comments. Let us know, because we need ideas.
Indeed. Yeah. But guys, that's it for us today. Remember to stay up to date with the World Health Organization and CDC.gov for all the details regarding COVID-19. Please wash your hands. Please social distance, and also, you know, whatever those organizations are saying to do, please heed scientific advice. But yeah, and then limit the risk and stay safe, fam. So anyway, like, share, comment, subscribe. For Mark, I'm AJ. Thank you guys so much for watching.